Hi guys, it's Matthew here. Welcome back to another video on my channel today. Today in this episode, guys, I'm going to be giving you guys my top 10 movies that do not need a sequel at all whatsoever, as a matter of fact. Like a movie that was just so perfect that it only needed one, or a movie that was so good that they did a sequel and it ruined it. So yeah, guys, that is what I'm gonna be giving you. That's what I'm gonna be doing here today in this video. Be sure to share your top 10 picks for the movies for the top 10 movies that don't need a sequel. So yeah, so be sure to leave your list down below in the comment section, as a matter of fact, and be sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video with your friends, because it'd really help out my channel greatly. And also, guys, those of you guys that are new to the channel, I do more than just movies and physical media related content. I also do Lego related stuff, and I also play video games. I do all sorts of stuff like that here on my channel, as a matter of fact. So if that kind of stuff is your speed to watch on YouTube, guys, please make sure you go watch a couple of my other videos. Give a couple of my other videos a chance, guys. And if you do end up liking this channel, guys, please make sure you hit that red subscribe button and press that notification bell. And those of you guys that are not new to the channel, if you haven't subscribed already, please make sure you go subscribe right after this video, as a matter of fact. So with that said, though, guys, let's get started with my number 10. And for number 10, okay, so the first two movies are literally just three trilogies of movies. So starting off at number 10, I have to go with Saw 3. So now this one is on the list. So if we go through the Saw movies 4 through 9, that is what I'm talking about, because Saw X can stay with the first three Saw movies. So now, the reason why this was on the list is because when we got Saw 3, it closed out the trilogy. Because John Kramer died, he's Jigsaw, and he controlled Billy the Puppet. But they found a way to continue the story for these movies. And personally, it is number 10 on this list because I really enjoyed because of excluding Saw X, because like I said a minute ago, I really liked I like Saw 5 and Spiral from the book of Saw. I do think those two are pretty good movies, actually. But the other movies before Saw X, I did not care for. Saw 4, I did not particularly care for, because after the trilogy, it just felt like they didn't have anything else to do. But then I thought 5 was pretty good. Saw 6 is, in my opinion, the worst out of all of them. Saw 3D was garbage, I thought. And then before Spiral, you have Jigsaw. And Jigsaw was crap too, in my opinion. But yeah, personally, I thought they should have just stayed with the first three films and then did Saw X. And then we have Saw 11 coming too. And I thought that was and I'm really excited to see how they continue Saw X. And I think I really liked Saw 5 and Spiral, like I said, but all the other movies in this franchise I don't particularly care for. Number 9, the next trilogy that I said is going to be A Nightmare on Elm Street 3: Dream Warriors. So So yeah, this is another horror franchise that should have just stayed a trilogy, in my opinion. Because after the third film in this franchise, I did not particularly care for them at all. I do enjoy Freddy vs. Jason and the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, but I'm not really counting those as sequels. So don't worry about them. But yeah, in particular, I do not care for the movies of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise at all. The thing I liked about the original Nightmare on Elm Street from 1980 is that they were able to create they were able to like make like a slasher movie and a thriller at the same time and put it together into one big movie, because the reason why I consider this a slasher and a thriller is because, for one, Freddy Krueger is a slasher villain, and two, Freddy Krueger is not a humanoid like Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees are. He's a demon from a different world, and so that created like a whole thriller aspect mixed into the original Nightmare on Elm Street. But then you get into A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, and to be honest, I thought that was a pretty good sequel. I thought they did a good job with doing a sequel and following up with the original and bringing back Freddy and getting his revenge. But then you go into A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, and in my opinion, that's the best in the franchise because it was completely different from the first two movies. Because in my opinion, because I like the whole concept of A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 about these kids using their powers against Freddy to try to take him down and kill him from once and for all. And they just brought all these kids together like Avengers style, and I really liked how they did that with the third film. But then after that, it didn't really feel like they needed to make more Nightmare on Elm Street movies, because all of these movies, they're just upsetting, and like it just felt like after the third one they just made the concepts of them more upsetting, and they made the nightmares that these teenagers have more upsetting too. I do enjoy Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare as a guilty pleasure. I know a lot of you Nightmare on Elm Street fans hate that movie of how ridiculous and over the top and silly it is. But personally, I have fun with it as a guilty pleasure because that's kind of what I liked. That's kind of what I liked about it is that it was really silly, as a matter of fact. But the Dream Master, the Dream Child, and Wes Craven's New Nightmare, I know a lot of you people like that one, but in particular, I don't care for any of those three films. In my opinion, they should have just stuck with the first three movies, and then just did Freddy's Dead, not Freddy's Dead, Freddy vs. Jason and the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. It's just in my opinion, the Saw and A Nightmare on Elm Street movies, those two horror franchises didn't really need to be a franchise. To me, they should have just stayed as a trilogy, because in the third film they did everything perfect, and then after like the third film, it's just hard for me to like them because they just get so more upsetting and repetitive. And if they can't make them less upsetting, and worthy of a concept, I'm not gonna like them at all. Coming in at number 8 is going to be The Hangover. So now, if you guys were to put The Hangover on a list like that, on a list like this, you guys would probably put it a little bit lower. But the reason why I have it this low, I have it a little bit lower on the list. I don't like the sequels. I haven't watched part 3, but I did see the first 2, and I have fun with the second one as a guilty pleasure. So the second one I have fun with as a guilty pleasure, but in reality, it's not really meant to be a good movie, but as a guilty pleasure, I still have fun with it. But then I really like the first one, like all you other people do, but in reality, I would agree. This movie didn't really need a sequel at all whatsoever, because it has a simple concept. A group of ragtag buddies, they go on a trip, they have a hangover, and then they wake up the next morning and they have to figure out what happened. So yeah, I get it. It's a very simple concept. But so that's why I didn't need a second one, is because they did everything perfect the first time, and then especially in the second one, they washed, rinsed, and repeated the exact same storyline like in the first one. And personally, as a guilty pleasure, like I said, I had fun with The Hangover. I had fun with part 2 as a guilty pleasure. So yeah. But in reality, I agree. The Hangover did not need a sequel at all whatsoever. Number 7 is going to be Speed. I did not see the sequel to Speed because I've heard that Speed is one of the most Speed 2 Cruise Control is one of the most hated sequels of all time. And I didn't watch it because I heard it was bad. And I actually heard Keanu Reeves was not in Speed 2, and I heard only Sandra Bullock was. But I agree. Speed was a simple concept. A bad guy that puts a bomb on the bus, and then you have two heroes that have to try to disable the bomb and drive the bus at a certain amount of speed so the bomb doesn't blow up, and then they have to disable the bomb and then go catch the bad guy. That is also a very simple concept that did not need a sequel, because just like The Hangover, it had a simple concept. They did everything perfect the first time, and they did not need to do a sequel in reality. And they just try to change it up. They just try to change the location up in The Hangover, and then in Speed 2, it's the same exact concept except for on a boat. Like I said, I haven't seen it, but I've heard it takes place on a boat instead of a bus, and it's the exact same. It's a direct rehash of the first one, and I 100% agree. This movie did not need a sequel, like I just said. It should have stayed by itself because they did everything perfect the first time. Number 6 is going to be... I just lost it for a second. Oh, number 6, The Matrix Reloaded. So now, I've actually heard a lot of people said in the Matrix they did everything perfect in the first movie and it didn't need to be a sequel. I was actually shocked because I enjoy the first one, and then I actually think The Matrix Reloaded, the second one, is actually pretty good. And I thought it was just as good as the first one. But the reason why this movie doesn't need a sequel is because The Matrix Revolutions and The Matrix Resurrections were crap. They were so horribly written, and as far as I understand, both of those movies have a different concept compared to the first two, but the concept of both of those movies weren't great at all whatsoever, in my opinion. But in my opinion, they should have just stayed with the first two and didn't touch it after Reloaded, because I actually think those two movies are top tier sci-fi action movies, and those two movies were perfect, in my opinion, as sci-fi action movies. And yeah, in my opinion, they didn't need to do another movie after that, because because the third and the fourth movie were terrible. Number 5 is The Lost Boys. Why on earth did they touch this movie? Especially decades later. To be honest, guys, I did not watch the second or the third Lost Boys movies. I did check the Rotten Tomatoes on both of those movies, and they both have a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I've heard a lot of people say it felt like direct-to-DVD type of movies. So I heard that they were pretty darn awful, as a matter of fact, and that's why I didn't watch them, because I've heard they were garbage. Why did they even do a sequel to this movie? They should have never done a sequel to this movie at all whatsoever, as a matter of fact. And I don't know what else to say, because I have not seen the other two Lost Boys movies, and I don't think I ever will, because they're garbage. And I love the first Lost Boys. I actually think it's definitely one of the top 3 best vampire movies of all time, in my opinion. And it's probably, I would say, for a lot of horror fans or people that are fans of werewolves and vampires in general, they probably have it in their top 3 vampire movies, at least, if not higher. And yes, this was another example of a perfect movie, and then they just decided to make more sequels, and they were trash. The Lost Boys did not need a sequel at all whatsoever. Coming in at number 4, I couldn't really think of another movie to put on this list, but at number 4, I have to give it to Horrible Bosses. So now, I don't remember the second Horrible Bosses that much at all, but I remember not being real crazy about it. But something I will mention, though, Horrible Bosses, the first one, is another simple concept. See my comments on The Hangover. See my comments on Speed, where you have a very simple concept. A group of three guys that are very good employees. All three of them have horrible bosses, and they team up to try to kill them because of how horrible they are. It's just like that. It's a simple concept. They did everything perfect the first time. There doesn't need to be a sequel. And I've said that numerous times in this video. There didn't need to be a sequel in this movie at all. I probably will rewatch the second Horrible Bosses. And if I end up liking it enough, I'll probably pick it up at some point. But I remember not being too crazy about it. I can't remember what the second one was really about because I only saw it like one time. But if we're talking about the first Horrible Bosses, it's a funny movie. It's probably one of my top 10 favorite comedies of all time. And this is another simple concept. It did not need a sequel. They did everything perfect the first time. I've said that a lot in this video already. Real quick before I give you my top 3, guys, remember to share your top 10 picks down below in the comment section. My list is not the right list, it's just my list, but I'm sure some of these things, some of these movies you guys will agree on because a couple of these movies, because there's a couple of movies in here that I've mentioned in this video that a lot of people have on their top 10 list of movies that do not need a sequel at all. So with that said though, guys, at number 3 is going to be The Anchorman. So now, a lot of people hate comedy sequels. And for me personally, I'm 50-50 when it comes to comedy sequels because I really liked the second Ted, and I really liked the second Dumb and Dumber as well. I actually thought that those movies were just as good as their predecessor. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but the Anchorman, it's one of those classic comedy movies that's just really funny. It's the staple of the early 2000s. It's one of the staples of the early 2000s comedy. It did not need a sequel at all whatsoever because they did everything perfect the first time. And yeah, I did not even finish The Anchorman 2, The Legend Continues. I actually turned it off at the very beginning of this I turned it off at the very beginning of the movie because it was garbage. The second Anchorman was garbage. And I don't care to watch it again at all whatsoever. It should have been a 1 and a done. Number 2 is going to be Zoolander. Another comedy. The staple of the early 2000s. They did everything perfect the first time. It was a funny movie. It's one of the best comedies ever made. They did a sequel, and it was dumb. It was dumb. They did not need to follow this movie up with a sequel. It was perfect the first time. And I don't know why they did a sequel to Zoolander. Because Zoolander was just like the first Anchorman. It's a classic comedy. It's funny. There doesn't need to be a second one. Because the both of those movies did everything perfect the first time. And And the Anchorman and Zoolander are not movies where you're supposed to squeeze out sequels. All right. We've reached the number one pick. We reached my number one pick, as a matter of fact. We're on to the Big Daddy. Now, the number one movie that should have never, ever gotten a sequel, and that's Children of the Corn. So now, I know a lot of you guys would say Jaws would be number one, but don't hate me. I did not care for the first Jaws at all, so I don't have like a big attachment to it. So I don't have a big attachment to Jaws, so that's why this movie's not on the list. And I didn't like the first one, so I have no desire to go back and experience the sequels. But just like what you guys say about Jaws, is the same, are pretty much the same reasons I have to say about Children of the Corn. This is a very simple concept. There's this one outcast child that has different beliefs that has completely different beliefs compared to his parents and other adults. He shares those beliefs with the other kids, and then they take over a cornfield in a small town in Nebraska, and then you have this couple that rolls into town and has to figure out why they're taking over the town. Just like that. It's a simple concept. And they made 10 of these things. That's more sequels than the Jaws movies, because they only did 4 movies total for Jaws. But this one, they decided to do 10 movies. I did not even bother to watch any of the sequels, because I've heard all of those movies are terrible, and I actually heard only the first one is the one that's worth watching, and I also heard they remade this movie as well, but I also heard that was also terrible, and it wasn't any better. And so with that in mind, I was told that only the original one, I think it was like 1983 or 84, somewhere along in there. Yes, this movie should have been a one and done, because it has a simple concept, and there did not need to be a sequel. Again, I have not watched any of the sequels, but I've heard all of the sequels are a wash, rinse, and repeat of the first one. Children take over a town, they take over a cornfield, they just do the same thing over and over and over again. And I agree. This movie did not need a sequel at all whatsoever. It should have stayed by itself. So there you have it, guys. Those are my top 10 picks for the movies that should never have gotten a sequel. As a matter of fact, again, let me know your picks down below in the comment section. As a matter of fact, guys, but with that said, though, guys, be sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video with your friends, because that'd really help out my channel greatly. And also, guys, those of you guys that are new to the channel, I do more than just the movies and physical media related content. I also do Lego related stuff, and I play video games. So if that kind of stuff is your speed to watch on YouTube, guys, please make sure you go watch a couple of my other videos. Give a couple of my other videos a chance, guys. And if you do end up liking this channel, guys, please make sure you hit that red subscribe button, but most importantly, press that notification bell so you don't miss anything in the future. And those of you guys that are not new to the channel, and if you haven't subscribed already, please make sure you go subscribe right after this video, guys. Without further ado, guys, I'm going to go bring you back to more videos, because more videos are on the way sooner rather than later, as a matter of fact, guys. And with that said, though, guys, take care, drink water, and stay safe, and I will see you all in the very next video. Bye.